I'm Kayla Ramos, welcome to Crash Course U.S. History. Last week we discussed the ending of the Civil War and how all the slaves were freed. Woo! No slavery. And so the initiation of Reconstruction opened up new opportunities for African Americans.
Ramos, weren't the slaves still limited because of the Jim Crow laws?
Wait, what's a Jim Crow? Some type of bird or something?
Let's begin. In 1877, Reconstruction ended with blacks facing the violence and intimidation of the Ku Klux Klan, who wanted to prevent the blacks who were now freed from swinging the vote. So not only were they subject to murder and violence from the KKK, but their voting rights were further limited or even completely stripped due to the Grandfather Clause, black codes, literacy tests, and Jim Crow laws. So the Jim Crow laws were state-level legal codes enacted by the southern states in the 1880s and were the first legalization of segregation between the whites and the blacks. So basically, restrooms, schools, parks, restaurants, theaters, and every possible form of public interaction were separate. And so the laws were further supported with the separate but equal ruling in the Plessy versus Ferguson case. So the separate accommodations made for the blacks weren't seen as illegal because the 14th Amendment was not violated in any way. After being denied admittance into a New York hotel, blacks initiated the Niagara Movement in 1905. The meeting took place at Niagara Falls under the leadership of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. There they made a list demanding their unrestricted right to vote, end of segregation, and equal economic opportunity. They were opposed to other black reformers such as Booker T. Washington. This movement led to the creation of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which provided support and leadership for the fight against racial inequality. So Booker T. Washington was a former slave who focused on the progression of black equality through education. Washington did not call for the complete equality for blacks. Instead, he wanted accommodationism, which was kind of like a compromise. And so this demand for a compromise produced his Atlanta Compromise speech in 1895, which called for temporary segregation while the blacks focused on economic gain to create a better political future. The Northerners saw this as racial progress, while blacks, like Du Bois, totally disagreed. So, yeah. Thought Washington was condemning them to racial inferiority. And Ramos discussing fearful African Americans during the Gilded Age. Please join us next week as we determine whether more natives or buffalo were murdered in the Western movement.